Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Today's segment is the Vellum with TPA Wulfric, and we will be discussing genre bending. And before we get into that, for all of those political fans, if you don't know who Jack Smith is now, you will shortly. Anyways, TPA, hello, hello.
Hey, how you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. And yourself?
Well, pretty good overall. Disturbed's new album just came out, Divisive. If people in the crowd don't know who that is, they're a hard rock heavy metal band, and they dropped a new album, which is the first half of it is Paul's favorite. It gets really political, and then the back half is more pick you up, psychological. It's like he goes from um, Twitter ranting Davey to Coach Davey. Even if there's a part of one of the songs where he goes, get up," and he like talks about taking back your life and talking about go back down and blah blah blah, and like it's really empowering, is what it is, and I really like the album so far. So, that came out today, so I was put in a better mood earlier because I was like, yeah, New Disturbed, yeah. I mean, for all who don't know, I have this Disturbed tattoo on my arm,
All
so
right.
they're kind of embedded in my skin forever. So
There you go.
whether whether I like it or not, they're part of me forever. And I made a decision when my mom was still alive, and she at the time she was like, because like what the guy did was he drew the eyes and the eyebrow and then the
Yeah.
mouth on my arm, and he's like, what else do you want on it? And do you want to just leave it that way, blank bare? And I'm like, how about if you put like red and like yellow on the eyes, so it looks like they're like bleeding but fiery? And he's like, do what I can. And then like he did that, but like it looked actually looked kind of cooler without the red and the yellow. Expectation versus reality, but
Right.
I still enjoy it. It's still shocking when I take my shirt off or I go to the gym or something and I wear like the muscle shirt. And I'm like trying to lift weights and stuff, and someone's like going, "Damn, that guy is popping out of your arm right now," and I'm just like going, "Yeah." So pretty cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a nice little reminder that there's a reason why the guy is on my arm. I think he's called the he's got like a couple different names. He's got like the vengeful one and then the guy. But either way, he's a demon character that's in the Disturbed world. So
Yep. I love it.
um
I love it.
yeah,
Cornelia's
so
in
that's
the
me today.
comments. Cornelia says, I'm here, guys. So here we
To,
go.
to jump right in.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, she's got an invite, so she can pop in anytime she likes. She knows it. Um, so genre bending. You were telling me a little bit beforehand, more specifically what it was. I mean, I kind of anticipated what it was, but I wanted to make sure. And when I did the red herring effect, and even though it's nonfiction, it's actually genre bending because it's political, it's philosophical, it's critical thinking, it's political science, it's law. So I kind of cover a lot of aspects, quite a few genres. And when I listed it, I think it's listed as political philosophy and democracy. If you check it out on Amazon. So
Yeah,
uh,
you could definitely do genre bending with nonfiction. Nobody thinks that because they think genre is fiction, right? It's fantasy, it's made up. But when it comes to nonfiction, it's the same fucking thing. Like whether or not you're talking about philosophy, whether you're talking about psychological stuff, whether you're talking about medical shit, like you have like all sorts of things. It says you have an invite, but I'm still here at work, and I'm not going to be professional when I'm with y'all. Okay.
it's okay. That's okay.
All right. But yeah, no, I would say that, nonfiction, it's the same fucking thing. It's the same concept. Genre just simply tells the audience what to expect. It's like putting a movie on Netflix and saying, well, what movie is this? It's psychological, or it's action, or it's fantasy with some thriller. And like it basically just kind of splashes some initial, tasty stuff on there to get you to click the play button. Like that's all it really is. And so with nonfiction, I would say absolutely, definitely, genre bending is part of that too. I'm here listening, but I'm singing, but now I'm going to listen. Cool. Sing while you listen. Do both at the same time.
Sing,
Like,
laugh, and smile. That's what life is supposed to be about.
yeah, and if you can, videotape yourself singing while you're listening so that you can put on TikTok and say, and that way you could hear us in the background being goofballs. And then, like, on TikTok, someone will be like, what the hell are you listening to? It's like, listen to the Vellum with Paul and TikToks. They're all singing at the same time.
She said, I'm not that talented. I disagree. You have a lot of talent, Ari. I think you could do it. Anyway, no, I'm kind of doing that with TJ because it's science fiction, it's futuristic, and yet bringing you back into. I'm running like two storylines at the same time, and it's a creation of demons and angels. So it's futuristic. It's I guess you could say spiritual in some ways, and it's modern. So I mean, there's a lot of blending that goes in with this, getting into the supernatural. At the beginning where you've already heard the part where he brings the little toy soldiers to life, or does he? So it's psychological, because you don't know if he's delusional or what's going on at the beginning. So yeah, there's I think that's a little genre bending, and then of course Blood Schism. I'm bringing vampires and druids together. I don't think I've ever seen any story or movie with vampires and druids. So that's and plus I'm changing the lore up a little bit. So yeah, I love genre bending.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do, honestly. If everybody that's in here, like you included, actually starts to get well accustomed to things that I do with my fiction, and not just me talking about it, you'll find that a lot of my plot twists and a lot of, like, how, like, I talked about the I think I've said it in the past to Luke. It's hook, flex, twist, where you get the reader hooked into the story, you flex, aka you throw in more of the meat and more of the story itself, and you introduce the setting and the plot, and you let the characters interact. But then you twist, aka you throw in a plot twist, or you have a character do something that is not exactly what is expected, that sort of thing. Or you invert the expectations. I like to put genre betting a little bit in that twist, because then, like, you're like, oh wait, was this supposed to be a psychological tale? Well, now it's this. Now there's another genre that's included in there, because then, and it's like little micro things. Like, instead of it being like, these first 5 chapters are just this one genre, it's like, yeah, you could do that. I mean, not typically something I would do, but you could do that, and it could be that, meat and potatoes. But I like throwing in a bit of flavors from other genres. Like, say, like, let's say the one chapter starts out with some horroristic stuff because there's some body horror, or there's some suspense going on because, I'm keeping on our toes. But then, like, at the very end, it's romance, because, like, I'm romancing the idea of these two people that are falling in love, and they're now dancing while they're killing people. Like, there's some stuff that's in there, and then, like, and then, like, in the next chapter, I'll flip it on you and go Western a little bit with, like, cowboys, or with, like, Western, like, stuff where they're trying to solve a crime, and continuing that flavor of the previous chapter with that romancing, because now you've got the romance and the horror mixing in with the Western, and then I throw in some sci-fi. And so, like, there's a bit of genre bending with the twisting lore, and so that way you go away from Amazon being able to categorize you straightforwardly and saying, this has got to be a horror book, or this has got to be a thriller book. Now it's a fucking mutt.
Yes.
and you're just like, now it's its own thing. Now you have broken away from the confines of what someone would think your story is, and now it's just become an organism of chaos. So,
well, again, back to Blood Schism and all that. She's a intersex sex worker, and it starts out basically with sex, and then she gets bit. So you're going through the transformation with her, and then again, it goes more into some bondage type shit, and then some horror fantasy, and then it gets outright bloody, so slasher gore more like, so yeah, there's a good mix in it. I'm loving it. I love this.
Oh yeah, no, I
Blending.
remember you reading some of that to me, to the people in the space. It's not me specifically, like I was just part of it, but like you were reading it, and like I was listening to it, and I was like going, "Holy shit, I like that left turn. Holy shit, I like that right turn." And they're like, "There's only one left turn." It's like, no, there was a right turn in there somewhere. Like I remember that.
Yes,
it, it
yes.
it took a turn. Like I enjoyed it, and it's like because like you never want it to be like because I'll be watching a Disney Plus show, for instance, or like something on Netflix or something on Hulu or whatever, and I'll be watching something and I'll be like, okay, so is it gonna go that direction? And then like it does, and I'm like, oh, okay, well then could have done this instead. But then like the other shows that I'll watch, I'll be like, is it gonna go that direction? And then they go the direction, but then they twist it a little bit. You're like, holy shit, that was cool. Like you took my expectations and you like twisted them just a slight ton, and then went 80 miles an hour the other direction, and then you're just like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. I forget who it was. Someone had wrote something and all that, and went a whole bunch of different directions with it. There's like a car chase. There's going through portals suddenly, and then it's just like holy shit, you know. So yeah, I love it when things change in a direction that you're just not expecting, you know, and that's I think that's what makes a whatever it is that's you're reading, you know, or even watching on TV, when it goes in a direction that you just simply don't expect it to go. There's been shows that I've watched that um, I didn't think they were like a supernatural show, and suddenly it's like, whoa, this just went supernatural. What the fuck, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just like, where did this come from? One of them is called, I think it's Black Forest or something like that. It's like a Norwegian show where this detective is investigating something, and weird things start happening, and you're just like, wow, okay. And then she's like, she gets injured out in the woods, and the ground swallows her up and heals her, and it's just like, whoa, where in the hell are we going with this?
Yes. And what's funny is I'll take nods from that stuff too. Like I'll be sitting there and watching a show that does that sort of thing, and I'll be writing a scene, and I'll be like, okay, so now the ground's gonna swallow her whole. She's gonna get trapped by a curse. Then what's next? And then we suddenly like change it just a tad in the next piece because I can't just stay with that one thing for that long because I'll get bored. And so like I end up having to insert like little twists and other stuff like that myself to just entertain myself. Because really, at the end of the day, if I'm writing a story and like let's say I present it to you guys in the spaces, or if I present it to a family member or whatever, and you guys are like, "Well, that was kind of lame," or "Oh, that was kind of cool." At the end of the day, I have to be like, "Well, am I happy with it? Like, did I, entertain myself at least?" Because you can always just write another thing. But like, the boys. I don't know if you've ever seen the boys.
Yes.
But like, you remember the very beginning of that one season, season three, when they're at a party, and it isn't till it isn't episode five, I think it was, where they go to that one party and it's just this giant fucking orgy everywhere. But it's the first episode where they're at the party, and the dude is trying to make love to his boyfriend, and yes, he goes inside of him, one of his body parts, and then he sneezes and then one guy sneezes and fucking he expands inside of him and blows him up. And it's like this heart wrenching scene where you're like, his boyfriend just fucking died. But like at the same time, you're laughing. Like your gut reaction is to laugh because you're just like, this was insane. And then of course, Butcher takes the guy and just sticks him in a freaking pile of cocaine on the table because the guy's trying to like attack him and his friends, and he just sticks him in the cocaine. And I'm like, watch this, and I'm like, okay, he's either gonna get really high or he's gonna suffocate and die happy at least.
I haven't seen season 3 yet. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I think it was the first episode. Like
Oh wow.
you're gonna watch this and be like, did that just fucking happen? And it's like, this is the boys we're talking about, so of course it happened.
Yeah. I don't know if I've watched season 2 or not. I watched the first season and I loved it, you know. Yeah, I don't think I've gotten to I may have watched the second one. I can't remember, but I know I haven't seen the third one.
speedster running right through his girlfriend at the very beginning, into Huey's girlfriend and exploding her. Because it's
Yeah,
exploring the concept of what happens when the Flash runs into somebody.
yeah,
Like a
yeah,
realistic, grittier take. Like, let's not save them at the end, or let's not spare them. No, let's just explode them to bits right in front of
yes,
him. Like
yes.
her arms just fall onto the sidewalk because that was what was left of her.
Yeah, no, I like the boys because it's like if we actually had superheroes, especially in this corrupt world that we're in now, this is what they would be fucking like. You know, there we wouldn't
Yep.
have no Superman. We would have
Really conservative, kind of insane Homelander who decides to decides to do the things he's doing, and he gets emboldened by they took some there was some subliminal messaging inside the episodes where are today's MAGA people
yeah,
in this world embolden and side with Homelander and get him to think that the things he's doing is okay.
yeah.
It gets kind of scary, but like
It
it's
does. It does. I love
grittier.
it. I think it's done well. It really shows, you know, what human nature actually is, you know, especially in this day and age. Jesus. But yeah.
Yeah, they'll throw themselves under the over the table so many times. Like
Yeah.
I think it's the deep and A Train will throw themselves under the bus so many times just to get each other ahead.
Yeah.
And of course the deep is driving a truck on trying to escape from somebody else because he's on the run, and the freaking dolphin he's trying to comfort is in the back seat, and he has to stomp the brakes because the dolphin wasn't buckled down. Dolphin flies through the freaking windshield and then gets torn to bits. And you're just like, they just killed a dolphin. That poor dolphin.
Yes. Yes. No, that show is definitely a genre bender. I mean, it takes everything you would expect from a superhero show and just twists it all around. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite examples of genre bending, honestly.
Yeah.
That and Sandman. Sandman's a new one.
I know. I've only watched an episode or two of it, and I haven't been able to get back to it. And well, here's what happens: is I sit there at night and I go in, I lay down, I'm getting ready to like, okay, I'm gonna watch something, and I go through and I just start looking and looking, and it's just like, yeah, this could be good. Nah, I don't think I want that. No, this is PG-13. I want something a little more dangerous. Uh, no, this isn't what I want. And I'll spend like a half an hour trying to find something either on Prime or Netflix. And it's just like by then I'm like, oh, it's time to go to sleep. And then I just lay down and go to sleep. And I end up not even watching anything. And I never think about going to my continue watching parts where it's like I've got like 20 different things that I've started watching. And I just, yeah, I'm not in the mood. Nah, that's not what I'm in the mood for. Nah. So the last thing that I watched that I really got into was The Devil's in Ohio.
I have never seen that. What is that about?
The lady Drescher from Bones, you know
Yeah.
the show Bones. She plays the lead character in it, and it's about this girl that runs away from this satanic cult. And when you're watching it, you're just like you're always scared for Drescher and her family because they're taking this girl in, and yet you know there's something more going on with this girl that you're supposedly trying to save. And since you haven't watched it, I'm not going to spoil the ending for you because you want to talk about an ending. Oh my God. It is so well written. And again, it's genre bending, you know. It's psychological, it's satanic cults, it's drama, and it's a total mind fuck of a show. I mean, you would enjoy it. You would enjoy it. It is deep.
Yeah.
It is deep. Yeah. Double in Ohio. The Devil's in Ohio. Yes, you got to watch it.
Yeah, I remember we're writing out some stuff to the wife, and I was taking influences from shows like that, and like not saying that I've seen that show because I haven't yet, But like once I do, I'll know exactly what you're talking about. I'm gonna message you and be like, Paul, what the fuck about that part?
Yeah.
I was sitting there and I was writing out a scene because a lot of times I like to surprise myself. Like I like to because I don't like to write the same thing every time. And like if I start to feel like I am, that I end up going mid swing somewhere else. But like I'll be writing out a scene and I'll have an expectation of like a basic expectation because I don't go with like advanced ones. I don't like do like we've talked about this where I don't do I don't do more than just an etch a sketch of like this is supposed to happen and then this is supposed to happen and then something in the middle here is supposed to happen. But then I let the characters themselves interact with it so that
Mhm.
way it feels more organic and it feels more real. And that way I'm not like forcibly moving them on the checkboard. But basically, I'll be writing out a scene and like Trinity or some of the other characters will do a thing, or say I'll be writing from Orion's. Ryan's is one of my favorite characters to write from because he's the Dreamwalker. So therefore, if if you're expecting it to not become mind bending, you're reading the wrong character. And so he'll go in places where you're like, how the fuck is that possible? And it's like, we're talking about Orion here. But like, so I'll sit there and read out a scene and I'll read it out to the wife and she'll be like, babe, you weren't supposed to hit me like that. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you weren't supposed to hit me the feels like that. And I'm like, well, I mean, the feels are part of it, yes. And she's like, but did you notice that other thing? And she's like, yes, but I noticed when you drop kicked me in the heart.
Yes. Yes. Well,
So,
again, I'm kind of doing that too with my character Iris and all that. It's just like there's this tough front, and as she's going through her transformation, you're seeing also her weak points. Where she's truly emotionally fucked up. And
yeah,
this whole traumatic experience has just got her on a seesaw of emotions, just not knowing, the whole tough act, the whole, oh my God, the never relying on somebody. And now she's relying on somebody, it's just like independence to wanting to be submissive. And yet I need to be dominant. It's just like all these different things that are going through her head. And you just don't know what direction she's going to go. You don't know if she's going to come out tough, if she's going to break, if she's going to fall apart and lose it, and that's where I want her to be chaotic until she can no longer be chaotic.
yeah, that makes sense. Like you want her to find that little closure moment or like that little turning point in the story where she's being chaotic until she gets what she needs to teach her uh, the next level of her story arc that gives her a sense of structure. That way she's not just living in the chaos nonstop. I get what you're talking about.
Right. Well, in this case, it's going to be she's never been loved. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And
It's a story about
when
love.
in the long run, that's what it is. Because she's, even though she's confident, she's always self-degrading too, and all that. Saying that everyone sees her as a freak. No one accepts her for who she is, and what's going to happen and all that. Spoiler alert: Donovan's going. Her and Donovan are going to fall in love, and it'll be the first time she's ever truly felt love. And the thing of it is that it's going to be the same for Donovan, because as you get to know Donovan more, you're going to realize he's never been in love because all of his dreams have been just taken away, and this is just the life that he's had to live for the last 1,000 years. So
Yeah.
it's like, again, love conquers all. And that's, again, it's what brings things together. It brings people together. It brings nations together. So again, all of my stories have political undertones, basically, if you read into when you start really looking at it, you're going to see that by today's modern division that we have, the druids will be looked at as the Democrats, while the vampires will be looked at as the Republicans. So, and it's going to show those undertones, the deviancy, and all that kind of stuff. And not that there isn't corruption on both sides, because I'm going to show that also.
Yeah.
So hopefully it again wakes people up. That's what I want to do. I want to wake people up. And the whole time that you're reading it, I'll never once mention anything political.
Yes, because it's all undertones. It's all hidden beneath the surface of what you're
Yes,
talking about. I
yes.
like that. And I actually wanted to make a suggestion that like maybe Donovan unwittingly, like he's not intentionally doing it, but he's been around for, as you said, 1,000 years, right? So if he's been around for a while, he's seen some shit. And so what if like he's unwittingly teaching her self-love? Like it's not just a story about loving him or him loving her. It's also about her learning how to love herself because she's so independent. And so it's not a story about independence versus dependence. It's her learning how to depend on herself, be independent, and therefore match him.
Well, it's about both of them loving themselves before they can love each other.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, both of
Kind of
them have
both.
to, for them to work. And again, it's something that I'm going to drag through like a daily soap opera. That everybody's going to be like, when are they going to kiss? When are they going to kiss? When are they going to come on? Just kiss and get it over with. Come on, and that's what I want it to be. I want it to be, when are these two going to finally connect? And again, it's going to come down to the self love, when they finally can look in the mirror and say, I love me. I finally love who I am. And when that moment comes, that's when the two of them will, come together.
You remember Lucifer, the TV show?
Yes.
Will they? Won't they?
Yeah. Will they? Won't
That's
they?
what that's reminding me of right now. Is you've got this being, aka Lucifer, who's been around for a while, like a long time, and you've got the detective who's been
Detective.
around for like a shorter time, much shorter time. But like it's that will they, won't they, and he's already independent, she's already independent, but like it's a similar concept that you're playing with, and I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh, well, where do you think I got the idea from? Come on.
Lucifer.
Where do you think I got it from? And I loved that. And again, I won't drag it out until season 27, but but I mean, it will happen in this book. I mean, because I've already got this planned for a trilogy. So
I dig it. I dig
yeah.
it. I like that idea of because like the first book is about them introducing each other. It's about them learning about each other. Second book is more about deepening that relationship, breaking down barriers that were previously not broken down, stuff that's terrifying. And so you've got this massive lace of fear that's surrounding it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like creating a sense of comfort. And then the third book is about like them. They either get to that point, or there's still a will they, won't they, but they're at least learning more about what it means to have love again.
Right. Well, this is about basically how her creation starts the war. And basically, I'm going to be showing the divisions and how everybody's going to be dividing and backstabbing each other. And by the end, you're going to know who's on what teams.
Okay.
Okay. And by then, Cornelia and Donovan and this third party, which I haven't brought in yet, are all going to come together. And when they come together, that's where you're going to see the unity. And that's going to be the end of the first book. The next book is going to be the actual war.
Did you say Cornelia?
Huh?
Did you say Cornelia?
No.
I swear you said Cornelia and Dominic.
No. No. No.
Okay.
No. No. No.
I was gonna be like, hey, if you're putting someone Cornelia in the story, that's not a problem. I just figured I'd point it out when I heard. that's
No.
that's cool though.
No.
That's cool
Now
though.
I'm going to have to watch this again to see if there was a slip in there.
A proverbial slip. You're like, I am inserting Cornelia in a few of these little flavors here. I wonder if she'll catch it.
Oh, no. See, my main character, Iris, could be played by Cornelia in a heartbeat. I mean, just
I can see that.
the spunk, the veracity, the compassion, the confidence, the charisma, all these great characteristics that make Cornelia are in this character. So I mean, when I'm in the process of reworking the first 4 chapters here, and when I get the first 4 chapters reworked the way I want, I would love it. I've already brought it up to Cornelia and all that. I would love it if we could have like a reading fest where I just basically we go through the first 3 or 4 chapters nonstop with Cornelia playing Iris. And if I can find someone that's got some real good Scottish, Irish, English accents that can do basically the rest of the characters, and I would probably just stick with one, Donovan, because I'm not really good at it, but I've got Donovan, my character Donovan, down pretty damn good. So yeah, I would like to have like a 2 or 3 some reading of the Blood Schism, like the first 3 or 4 chapters. I think that would be entertaining as fuck.
It would be. It would definitely be entertaining as fuck. And then if you for proverbial slip and you're like Cornelia Anelia.
Cornelia Nelia. No, no, no. There's no Cornelia Nelia.
Oh shit! Hey, that was a pretty funny joke there that I think it was Daigle had said like weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Where like he was trying to like write her as a school teacher and like create all these little characters that are surrounding her. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah. This book's going to have a lot of characters and all that. When I was doing my review over it the other day and doing more breakdowns, I'm going to have a lot of goddamn characters in this book. I'm probably going to be looking at about 30 to 40 characters that all have a place in the book of who's going to be who and sides and, rank and order and all this other stuff and all that. Like the Bondi Maidens, when when I have a character basically lead the Bondi Maidens, and they become the female vampire warriors, to fight against the male vampires, because there's a separation, because basically any time they create a female vampire, it's for one reason and one reason only, and it's to make them into sex slaves, you know.
Yeah.
So when they're freed, and their vengeance becomes part of the story, that's again, it's going to be huge, because um a little no, I'm not going to reveal it here. I'll wait. I'll wait. I don't want to reveal it yet, because again, we were talking about the twists and the turns.
Yep.
It will be a turning twist that nobody will expect.
That's okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah, there's a similar thing that I'm playing with in one of my chapters that I've been writing. I'm trying to decide if it's going to be a dream or if it's going to be reality. But there's a part in the story where there's going to be like little creatures that are inside some of these students that have been, living inside of them for the entire time the story's been happening. And they were planted there. And at some point in the story, once our main character, one of the students was assaulted in the school year. And in this journey, another student is mad that they got assaulted, whether it was intentional or not, by the person that did it. And so a bit of Carrie happens. They dump blood all over her, right? And it happens at a party. So it's not like at the school or anything like Carrie is, but it's at a party that main character's friend throws so that they can try to make them feel better. Now, naturally, in the Shadowfang world, nothing that starts out sounding great ends great. And so during this party, it turns into a bloodbath, and these creatures turn out to be bombs, and they start exploding heads. And so you've got like her getting drenched in blood, and then throughout the party, heads just start exploding on bodies, and some of them, their bodies explode with them, because the creature isn't just in the head. And so therefore, you've got a bloodbath. And I'm trying to decide whether that's in a dream or if that's reality. But either way, it's going to be It's gonna be gory. It follows another scene where there's some body horror in an actual dream, but when she's like slips in and out of reality, of consciousness and reality, and like like the dream state, and then she's awake and then she's not awake, she's awake and then she's not awake. When she slips in and out, she sees um this kid's skin peeling off their body. She sees the face start to dangle. Flames in the dream are hitting his skin, and so it's causing him to melt proverbially, turning him into a bloody skeleton. Think Hellraiser. And then, like in reality, when she's waking up, he's hovering in the air like he's got strings holding him up, but he's more distorted and bruised. So it's bloodier and gorier in the dream than it is in reality. And so it's playing with some body horror in that scene, and that next scene is supposed to follow it. So I'm not very nice to my characters.
Me either.
Like I was writing, so you know how Luke was having that sprint, and the other day, they've had the sprints a couple of times the last couple of days, but it was the other day when I was actually able to be in one of the sprints in the spaces. That scene that I'm talking about, where she slips in and out of reality, and she's seeing her classmate suspended in midair, and Braxton, the main bad guy, is essentially holding strings on him and stuff. He's holding him suspended midair. I wrote that scene during the sprint in pieces. In pieces, because I was like going, oh, I've got 96 words done this time, or I did 358, or I did 1,000 something. I ended up writing like close to 2,500, and it's that chapter's still not finished. Like it's supposed to have her go to a hospital bay, and she's supposed to talk to her friends about how she wants to shut herself away because she feels like the more she's around people, the more she causes people to get hurt. So she's having a classic hero crisis. But like, and then Orion tries to calm her down and is like, oh, let's go to a party. Let's do a party thing. Not that the party's going to end well, but let's do a party thing. It's part of the hero's tale where the hero ends up near their lowest. They're not quite their lowest yet, but near their lowest. And one of the characters throws a party. And in every movie, there's always a party moment or a get-together moment right before the battle where they get together and they try to remind themselves of why they're fighting in the first place. And it's kind of part of the stages of the hero structure. And I'm actually applying the hero structure a bit more to this story than I was the last one I wrote. Because my aunt was just like, you didn't do the hero's tale exactly in the first part. And I'm like, I don't have to all the time. But like, because of her feedback, I was like, let's try, an alternate cut of it. And so far, I've actually been liking the alternate cut better, so maybe that'll be the one that's canon. But yeah, like it's funny is the first part is Snake and the Dame, and it's like a car chase without a car, because the main monster is chasing the other main character across the world, and like in between dreams and in between situations. And by the time he finally gets to the end, he finally catches up to Peter, but he's been playing cat and mouse with them this entire time for Snake and the Dame. And so the second one, Storms of Blood, is really just him just mentally fucking with everybody. Like he's getting in everybody's dreams. He's mentally fucking with everybody. It's the act 2 of the volume. And so it's the ramp up of tension. And this is before Origin of Delirium, when he's gonna amp up his might, but Orion and the kids are gonna be like, let's fight back. Like, let's not wait for the adults to do all the work. Let's fight back. Which is, of course, borrowing a bit from Elm Street, where the teenagers start to fight back after like 2 of them die. And so like it's borrowing from that a little bit, not like a lot, but enough to keep like the focus intact. And so Origin of Delirium is going to be a weird, interesting one, because in my head, I have Sam going through dreams that explore her past, but not going so far into the dreams that the story becomes passive. I want it to still be a journey, and I want her to like see where she was before the school that she's in now, where her grandmother sent her to an academy in which she dealt with sexual assault and dealt with watching people die and stuff, because it was not a pretty school. But I want her to like deal with that without it becoming passive. So I'm like figuring out what to do with that story to like make it a psychological horror story, but like not too much over the top. And it's going to be an interesting balancing act. That's where this genre bending comes into play because you've still got the dark fantasy, but you've also got the psychological aspects. And so
Yeah.
I'm playing with some stuff in my head while I finish up Storms of Blood.
Yeah. Now, how do you come up with names for your books and your titles? I mean, do you like come up with it to begin with? Do you change them? Do you alternate? What do you do here?
Once I come up with a title, it generally sticks. I think of keywords. I think of thematically, like, because when it comes up with the title is not micro level. The title is zoomed out. What is the story about, and what story are you telling?
Right.
With Storms of Blood, I had come up with 8 different titles that might have stuck. The wife's the one that came up with the title for part 2, actually, because I was coming up with like Power of 3, and then I came up with a couple other different titles. Going to Google and found out that everything I was trying to come up with was taken, and I was like, "How the fuck is it this hard to title something?" And then she was like, "Well, what if you just call it?" Because you said you were playing with blood and then you were playing with storm, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, those are 2 key words that kind of play with the idea that this character is having psychological storms in their head, but their head is also mirroring their reality and their environment, because their environment is supposed to influence them this way or the other. She's like, well, why don't you just call it Storms of Blood? And I'm like, wait. I dismissed that title when it first came to me, and she's like, you shouldn't fight your intuition. And so like I was like, wait a minute. So I wrote it down, and at first it was just called Storm of Blood, but then I had some mix up with Amazon and was like trying to figure out how to publish it and everything, and they kept fighting me. And so I'm like, let's make it plural, because there's multiple stuff happening in this book that are not just one. And so I added S to the end of Storm, and so now it's called Storms of Blood. And so it's basically this story about this girl who's learning about her identity, and she's in a crisis because her past keeps trying. And when I always say past, I don't mean the past 14 years of her life, because she's a teenager. I'm meaning like her past that goes beyond the 14 years. Like we're talking like spirit that's inside of her head that lived in the past, and that her parents and everybody seems to know about. And so it's called Storms of Blood because it's the crisis of past and your present colliding, and it's your past life being inside of your head and talking to you. And so when I told Cornelia, weeks ago, that I was like, the fact that you have like your past spirits and your spirits and shit like talking to you and stuff validates the fact that Trinity talks to a past spirit life. Like it validates the fact that that voice in her head is coming from the past. It's this dead spirit person that lost their body initially, and it's hundreds of years later, or not even hundreds of years later, probably decades later. I haven't cemented the exact time frame in my head, but time a span later, she's in her head and she's talking to her and she's having sort of commentary, and she was previously in relation with the bad guy. She was in relation with Abraxan. Like Abraxan and her are tied together somehow. I won't exactly reveal why, but they are tied together. And Abraxan is dead set on reconnecting with this person and using Trinity to do so. And so Storms of Blood is definitely about it's a teenage identity story for a girl. So it's more psychological. It's more emotional. It's more intensely focused on how does she feel? Where is she at mentally? What journey is she undertaking? She wants love, but she wants love for herself because everyone else is trying to project the fear and the terror they have for this previous being that caused a lot of pain. And so Trinity has to figure out, who the fuck am I? And how do I fit into all this madness and this chaos? And so that's kind of what the story is about, is it's her figuring out what that means to herself. Not just what it means to everybody else, because everyone's too busy telling her what it means to them. What does it mean for her? And then with Sam's story, Origin of Delirium, and this is to answer your question about names with titles. I take keywords that are part of a story, zoomed out. Like I'll zoom in a little bit just to be like, okay, well, this is what the core of the story was. This is what the A and then the C. I'm trying to talk like to use my hands to the camera, but A and C are right here. This is where the story is. This is where the story is going to be, or at least I think this is where the puck's going to be. This is where all the meat is in the middle. And the key words have to do with that, have to do with the story. And so with Sam, she's dealing with mental insanity on her dad's side, mental insanity on her mom's side, and especially since on her mom's side in the kingdom, her family likes interbreeding. They like marrying each other, fucking each other. And what does
Right.
that do? That creates insanity, or they creates a tendency for DNA mixing and for, bad breeding. And so, I borrowed a little bit from the Targaryens in that respect with Game of Thrones, because I'm like, wait a minute, if Targaryens did this and they went mad and they called Daenerys the Mad Queen, then in this story, wouldn't that make sense if like we went a little similarly? I've been working on my novel and trying to figure out how to use telepathy between a wolf and a human. Italics are suggested to me. Italics are a very important part as long as you have clarity as far as what's going on, because otherwise it's just italics and could easily be her talking to herself or it could be her talking to the wolf. Make sure you add tags next to the italics if you're going to do that, because what I do is I will have Trinitas talking to her in her head and have like sarcastic remarks, but then instead of saying Trinitas said or Trinitas growled, I put on a action tag of like, what is Trinitas doing in her head? Because this is still a spirit in her head. So what does that look like to her? Because for us, we would think, it's an ancient spirit. I don't see it in my head, so therefore I can't see it in my head. Well, this is a fictional tale with a teenager, so would she see Trinitas in her head, or would she just hear her tone of voice? Would she just feel the difference emotionally? So there are times where like she'll hear the tone of Trinitas' voice. She'll feel her emotions, like whether it's wry or whether it's sarcastic or whether it's demeaning, or she'll feel like a bristle that's not herself bristling at Abraxan or herself bristling at somebody. She'll feel Trinitas bristling at somebody, and it's outside of herself, or she'll literally see Trinitas shaking a fist or something in her head because it's all up here. And so what I would do with that, with the wolf and your character, is I would have it to where like if the wolf and the character are doing actions towards each other, I would use the action line. I'd alternate to where it keeps it interesting for the reader. Hopefully it's not confusing, but I'll alternate between action tags and regular tags because then it keeps it fresh. I'd keep some consistency. What?
I'm going to say all you have to do is the first time they communicate telepathically and all that is you basically say as she talks to him through thought and then go into italics. And then from there on out, you just keep every time she talks to him in italics.
Yeah, exactly. It's another idea for it. Like basically keep consistency with it, but keep it fresh too. Exactly. But yeah, to answer your question, I know I was going way, far with the whole explaining why the names are there, but like keywords and theme. Those are a couple things that help me.
Right. Because see, to begin with, when I was writing Blood Schism and all that, to begin with, I mean, it didn't even have a title, I don't think. I can't remember because to begin with, I was just messing around. It was going to be an erotica. And of course, I can't do erotica. But then the idea became a story. So I ran with it. And I came up with Blood Schism because it's, a division between the vampires and the druids. And that's what a schism is a separation because of ideologies, thoughts, politics, whatever the case may be. And in this case, blood. They're two different creatures, druids and vampires. But I also, because of the prophecy I have in the book, I thought about calling it the Rainbow Prophecy. And that
would have been a cool title.
Well, I'm thinking about changing it because I'm thinking about because the reason why I went with like Blood is Schism is because I was thinking of like the series True Blood. Blood in the title, anytime you have like blood in the title, it's got to be done in a way to where it doesn't come across as a B-rate horror movie,
yeah.
And I don't want mine to be that. And every time I say Blood Schism, I'm just like, this is sounding more and more like a B-rated fucking title than anything else. And I'm going over, the different titles that I have. And of course, all of them are crossed out except for one, the Rainbow Prophecy. And the reason why it would be called the Rainbow Prophecy is because the prophecy is actually talking about a rainbow. And when you look up what the name Iris means, it means rainbow.
Yeah. My youngest child's middle name is Iris, and that was the point. Is it was Luciana, Lilith, Kaylee, Iris, and when you combined it, it was light of monsters, and then rare beauty and rainbow, and she was the rainbow child. She followed up with Amber's miscarriage, so that was she's the rainbow baby. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about changing the name to the Rainbow Prophecy, because I really think, plus, I also am going to have a lot of LGBTQIA aspects in it. So there's kind of like a dual meaning with it then, So I'm thinking that I might actually change it to the Rainbow Prophecy.
Interesting. I think that finish writing the story, keep the Rainbow Prophecy written down. That way it's like an alternate idea. But finish writing the story, and then once you get to that point, then see if Rainbow Prophecy sticks more. See if it rings more to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what I'm doing is I'm waiting, Sometimes like with TJ, I renamed TJ and it's just like, no, it's fucking TJ, period. It's all about TJ, little Tommy Jensen. It's about TJ. So it's like no changing it. It's kind of like certain names when they like breathe. I mean, this is what it is about. The whole story is about to live, you have to get air in your tank to breathe. So it's very, very fitting. So this has been the only one that I've been like, oh, this is kind of sounding like a B-rate movie. I don't want it to be a B-rate movie. I want it to be something strong, and I'm really starting, as the more I'm redoing things, the more I'm thinking I might actually go with Rainbow Prophecy. I think it might actually be something. I mean, can you just imagine that up on the big screen? And I
well, especially since you talked about like having LGBT characters and you talked about undertones, political undertones. You talked about it depends on which direction you want to go with, because you could easily call it the Rainbow Schism.
Ooh. 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 I'm liking that. Ooh, I am. Hold on a second. Hold on. I have to go in and put this in with that now. Holy shit. Go all the way back up. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Rainbow Schism.
Because you're kind of tying everything together that way, and then avoiding that rainbow, that '80s B movie that you're talking about.
Yeah. There it is. I've now it's three possibilities here: Blood Schism, Rainbow Prophecy, Rainbow Schism. Anya just said the Rainbow Prophecy is cool. Yeah. So basically, what I'll probably do is, after I've read enough of it and I've got it done, I'll probably send it out to about three of yous. Probably you, Cornelia, and Luke. And when you guys read over it, I'll probably get feedback and have you all pick a title. And obviously, and all that, it's going to be funny if it comes back. One of you has picked Blood Schism, one picks Rainbow Prophecy, and one of you picks Rainbow Schism. And it's just like, okay, I'm just right where I was at the beginning.
I can totally see that happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I can't. I end up, my brain just combined them together. I was like, wait a minute. Prophecy just seems like something that you would averagely see. Blood Schism definitely sounds like what you're talking about. But if you said that you have LGBT stuff in there, you have Iris being the rainbow, but then you have the word schism in the title. What if you took the two oddballs, Rainbow and Schism, and just put them together, and it sounds like a catchy ass title? Like, I'm gonna tell my wife that and be like, "Hey, what would you prefer? This one, this one, or this one?" And I'm betting that she's gonna go with Rainbow Schism.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to see. The Rainbow Prophecy. Yeah. We'll have to see. I'm liking this. That's okay. Again, it's getting me more energized. I can't wait to delve back into it some more. I can't wait to do the little restaurant, read the restaurant scene. You guys are gonna fucking shit, man. Yeah.
I just threw dynamite into your chaos blender.
I'm excited about reading more of it and all that. The restaurant scene, I know you guys are just gonna fucking freak the fuck out with it. When Donovan comes back to rescue Iris, and when Iris comes just unfucking hinged and she gets her hand on that katana, you guys are just gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah. You see, my original prologue, I basically it was a information dump, with Iris, being the badass that she's going to be. And when I read it, a lot of people said, this is an information dump. This is an information dump. This is an information dump. Well, when you get about 6 people that, are writers, that they're all telling you the same thing, and it's like, okay, I need a new prologue. So I wrote a new prologue, and when I read it, and they're all just like, I love it, I love it, I love it. It's like, okay, so now I have to infiltrate all this information back into my writing. And basically, when she's like in the cage and she's eyeing all the weapons and stuff, and she's like, they better pray I don't ever get out of here. And it's just like, ooh, what does she know? So again, information leaked in. And once she lays her hand on that fucking katana, oh my goodness, you guys are going to be just like, oh shit. And she goes flying through the air, reading off old druidic enchantments and all that. And it's going to be like, oh, the druid part. Yeah.
Nice. Guess what? One of the titles of one of my stories is for part 4. I titled it this as a joke, and the wife loved it because it's like a perfect summarization of this character. But it is called the Cosmic Belt.
I like it.
Yeah, it's Orion is the one of the main character in that story. He's the narrator, and what is Orion also?
A constellation, Orion's
Yes.
belt. Yeah.
Yes,
and belt. I like it.
I mean, you take his character and you combine him with all the other characters in the story, whether it's Peter, Vilas, Trinity, Virima, any of them, Orion himself. You get a mixing of different teenagers who are all part of the same group, and he is the belt that holds them all together, and so he's the cosmic belt. He's the Orion's belt.
I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah, so that's why, like, a lot of times with titling, I tend to think either thematically what is going to work for the story, but I also think what would be a good way to tell this character's story. With Sam, it's dealing with similar topics that Storms of Blood is. It's talking about external environment versus internal. So we're talking about psychological stuff, talking about her family, talking about what it does in her head. I mean, her cousin is our first main narrator, which is Peter, and he's being chased by a demon guy, and the same demon guy is going to end up tormenting her. And so it's origin of delirium, and delirium is a state of mind in which you're in a state of mental illness or your state of extreme anxiety. Delirium is being like in between extremes, and so it's the
Yeah.
origin of that. It's the origin of her going down a road of which her grandmother went down, and her grandmother has become borderline insane. So it's that idea of the fact that she's going to become a mirrored image of our main villain, and so
No.
it's origin of delirium. So that's why I'm like, a lot of times whenever I'm thinking of titles, I'm thinking of what would tell the character's story the best, but also what would be thematically good keywords for it. And so I go through like, sometimes they just come in my head and like I just write them down and I go, okay, well that sounds great. And I say it out loud and it sounds even better, you know, sometimes.
Yeah.
Luckily it has been at least recently. But that's why when you're naming off your titles, I was like, well, Schism, I believe has to do, what does Schism mean again?
Schism is a division.
Okay.
And the division can be for any reason, whether it's politics, whether it's ideology, whether it's money, the schism between the rich and the poor, the schism between politicians and Christians, just whatever ideology, that's schism is division.
So
And that's why I
Rainbow
call it
Schism,
right.
Rainbow Divide, random, a colorful divide of ideologies and viewpoints in a melting pot of chaos.
Yeah. And Ariana, it's a cool Tool song. Yes. Yes. Is it Tool? Let me see.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So yeah, they're again schism. It's a cool fucking word, man. I love the word schism. So yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see for sure, but I'm pretty sure you're going to end up being like, holy shit, Rainbow Schism is perfect. Because then you're avoiding your B-rated horror movie title, and then you're also avoiding the word prophecy, which is kind of like something you'd expect. So Rainbow Schism would really like ring. I'm just gonna say that, not because I came up with it. It's just that's what popped out
Yeah.
of my head. I was like, wait a minute,
Oh, I
like
like it. I like it. Because that's how you divide a rainbow. Yeah, the cover art should be a prism. Oh, most definitely. I've already got um, the idea for the cover art is a ray of sunshine coming down through a prism with lights coming out in a bunch of directions with a backdrop of wilderness with a darkness over in the corner. And the darkness over in the corner, there's like shadows that are in the darkness. And then you have like wildlife that you like, there's going to be like a deer and a bunny rabbit and a butterfly and other animals, but you have to look to see them. In other words, if you just look at the cover, you're not going to see these animals. You have to look to see them. So again, it's kind of like the cover of my book here. Okay,
yeah,
get it close enough, you can see the fish in there, the red
yeah,
herring. Okay,
I see the fish.
okay. Make note of the design on the book. That's called a herringbone.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. So a herringbone design with red herrings that when you first look at the book, you think it's just black and white, and you have to look up close to see the fish in it. And it's just like, oh, all those red herrings in there. Wow, the red herring effect.
Yeah, and a red herring is also a deflection.
Yeah, yeah, it's a distraction. A red herring is a distraction, and that's what my book is about. All the distractions that everybody is exactly distracted by, the red herring effect. They're not aware of what's really going on, and that's what my book does. Is it points out what's really going on.
Yes.
Oh, nice, sounds awesome. Kind of reminds me of Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd type design, but with nature. Exactly. Yes, Ariana. Basically, yes. And if you look at the Pink Floyd cover design, that's a martini glass turned upside down. Just so you know.
Oh, nice. I didn't even notice that.
Yes.
See, that's what Paul's here for, is to point out things that people don't notice initially. I'm teasing.
No problem. In fact, let's see if I can. Let's see. New window, and then Floyd. Dark Side of the Moon. All right, and then present, share screen, window, boom, share. Yeah, this is a martini glass that's upside down with the light going through and the light coming out. And
oh, sure, I just thought that was a triangle.
No, it's actually an upside down martini glass. And the only reason I know this is I think it was in Rolling Stone magazine. They were talking about how did they come up with the cover art for this album. And basically he was sitting in a bar and put his martini glass upside down because he was done drinking for the night. And apparently the bar was getting ready to close. And when the lights went off, one of the lights hit through the glass and he saw like a little rainbow prism coming from it. So that is the idea behind the cover art on that. It's an upside down martini glass. And like I said, and this is decades ago that I read this. So I can't remember the exact everything that happened and transpired that got it to that point, but it's an upside down martini glass that light shot through that gave him the idea, and that became the album cover.
That's badass. That's badass, honestly. I love it. Holy shit.
Yes. But yeah, and that's kind of the here. Let me bring it back up. That's kind of like the idea that I want and all that, except for I don't want the big triangle and all that. I basically want the light like coming in from this direction with a little prism here and the colors coming out in all directions with like a dark little cave back here in the corner with little silhouetted shadows that you can't see just by looking at the cover. But if you bring the cover up close, you're going to see shadows in the darkness. Think about that, shadows in the darkness. And then all of this here would be like forest with like maybe a stream going through the center or something. And then again, all the animals that are in the forest, you don't see them unless you look. And of course, there's a division, the river, the division, one side the darkness, the other side the nature, the light, which in this story, the druids represent nature and the vampires represent the darkness. So there you go.
That's badass. Honestly, that's a conceptual cover that would like that's crazy. Like I love it. Like it's that's stuff that like I always like tell the wife, I'm like, hey, like, we need to come up with a concept cover or something that's symbolic rather than something literal. And sometimes we'll come up with some stuff that really nails it, and then sometimes it takes a minute to come up with something like that. But that right there, what you came up with,
right?
Who's going to design it? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Now, what would really be awesome if I could find someone that could actually design it to where the cover is like lifted a little bit to where like the prism sticks up and the rainbow, I want it to be like you can't see the rainbow unless you turn it in the light, and then suddenly there's a rainbow and everything can be seen through the rainbow. In other words, like if it's turned just right, you can then see the shadows, you can then see the animals, but then if you turn it the other way, you can't see any of it. So I want it to be kind of a one of those types of covers where you have to really look at it to see what's really there. I want like a mystique with the cover if I can.
I think that maybe Ghostel would actually be perfect for that. Actually, if you wanted to try it, take a stab at it. Like I can
Oh,
ask her
go
to take a
for it.
stab at it and see if she wants to do that because she likes doing not in your face stuff. She likes doing stuff that's hidden or obscured or stuff that's like, mysterious or that, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. Those are stuff that really gets her going. Like
All right.
I've been very like upfront and with my, bluntness with like how I want the covers designed. It had been very literal. But when I told her it was a year and change ago, I said I wanted a series of the covers to be more conceptual, more mysterious, more subliminal. And she went to town on creating a bunch of them. So I have an entire folder of, an edition of covers that I could use for the stories. I just had her create another version of it because people seem to be attracted more to surrealistic fantasy type stuff, where like
Mm-hmm.
it was, model people or it was, certain imagery that's on there. So basically, there's going to be an addition of the story that has that type of cover design because I want there to be like, different variations or different cover variants for the story.
Yeah.
But I could talk to her about potentially making something like that for you and see if you like it, that type of thing.
Definitely, definitely. Like I said, it's something that I want to have uh, um, some mystery and intrigue to it. And I want people to like take magnifying glasses because, like the stream, I want the water to be clear. And if you take a magnifying glass and you start looking at the rocks, there'll be messages in the rocks that you'll never see unless you have a magnifying glass. It's like I want all these little hidden things just in the cover, and it's going to be reflected in the book itself. Just like the main animal that I want like hidden in the forest that you can't see is like a horse, because horses are going to play a huge part in this whole storyline.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
because one of the leading druids, that again, when I read it in the prologue and all that, she is able to mentally communicate with horses and send messages via horses. So, yeah.
I dig that. Holy shit. Like, what's funny is because it has to do with horses too. That's why my wife's favorite animal. So she would love to do something with horses on the cover too.
Yeah, yeah, because my druids can communicate with all living creatures telepathically.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm breaking druid lore and changing it up, and I'm breaking vampire lore and changing it up. So, again, because none of them have the full power that they used to have when they first came into creation.
Yeah.
So basically, Iris is going to be the composite of all of that power, kind of like the whole Jesus Christ syndrome. Um, where in the prophecy, the frost in the flesh in the frost, she is the elemental energy of all life in existence. That's no longer the source of energy that is within the earth. She is that source of energy walking in the flesh. So it's
Yeah.
like she's a god of all things walking in the flesh.
It's badass.
Yeah. Yes.
Just avoid the Mary Sue or the Ray Sue.
No, it's going to be fun. Anyways, we are over the hour mark. And again, thank you again. For our viewing audience, we're probably not going to have any shows on next week because it's Thanksgiving. So, with the exception of, I still got to talk to Shadow Fox. And, oh, hello, Shadow Fox. She's in the comments.
Oh, hi.
Shadows. Hello, Shadow Fox. I'll have to talk to Shadow Fox. I haven't talked to her about it yet, but I still got to talk to Luke. I don't know if Luke's going to want to or not. Luke will probably want to take a week off, especially with NaNoWriMo going on. She could probably use the break. But next week is Thanksgiving, so I'm probably going to take next week off, and everybody will be back the week after that. I know you talked to me about some things with work and all that, and we'll get that all coordinated. So,
Yep.
in the meantime, everybody remember, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Thank you.
Have a week. Appreciate you guys.